is what's going on, everybody? It is Jason Jaybird Goldstein here for another episode of The Bird's Eye View. If you're just listening on Spotify, you might notice there, a bit of a weird introduction. That's simply, I'm on YouTube right now. I don't know if anyone's been watching on YouTube, but I wanted to go live on YouTube for once, sort of just change things up. I've always done it and I've always just done it recording the podcast, but now I want to get some audio in there. And yeah, I'm really looking forward to this. First time ever on YouTube. We have a big episode coming up. Lots going on in sports. I mean, we had an epic week 9 that we have to cover at least a bit of. I mean, that week 9 was probably the best NFL Sunday of the year. All these games were coming down to the wire, and especially in the 1 o'clock window. You had Tom Brady leading a somewhat vintage Tom Brady comeback against the Rams, although, both those teams have a lot of question marks. And it's the midseason. Now that we do, an 18-game season, we're officially 9 weeks into the season. We're at the official halfway point of the regular season. We're going to look back at some of my old takes that, went wrong in the preseason, some of my old takes that record predictions, award predictions, see where they're at now. But first, let's get into that game. Let's get into that week 9, starting off with, first off, week 9, you know what else made it great? Your boy went 6-1 on his bets. One of his best NFL Sundays ever. Should have been 7-0, but there was a late touchdown in that Seattle game. Hey, not mad. Won one of my fantasy leagues, lost in the other. FanDuel. I'm in a FanDuel league. It's pretty fun. But the first game we have to talk about is Lions and Packers. And what did I say? If you listened to my last episode, I hope you took my advice and picked and bet the Lions, because I said the Packers. It's now 9 straight losses on daylight savings. Now, there are some things that you just can't explain. And it's the Packers on daylight savings. They have a weird losing streak, and it's one of those things where there's no football logic behind it. It just happens. And you know what? It wasn't even just that, though. This was a Packers team in a free fall that lost 4 straight, and they're not losing to good teams. Okay, the Giants and Jets are actually better than we thought, but they were favored against the Giants. They were favored against the Jets, and they lost. You already saw them get rolled over by the Vikings. This is not a good Packers team right now, and they really haven't been. Even when they were 3-1, they were really not playing that well. They escaped the Patriots. They escaped the Bears. Then this was a Lions team that they play close, but they don't win. They're hungry. This is Aaron Rodgers, annoyed, frustrated, thinking, oh, yeah, it's the Lions. I'm going to walk over. This was the Lions seeing an opportunity to take advantage. They seize that opportunity. They stay frisky. And they look. Dan Campbell, good for him getting his second win of the season. Yeah, I still don't know how long Dan Campbell is as a head coach in this league, if I'm being honest. We'll see with him. Good for the Lions. And oh man, are the Packers in trouble. Yeah, no, the Packers are in serious, serious trouble. They're not good. They are not good, the Packers. It's one of those things, and I'm going to brag about it. I'm going to continue to brag about picking against the Packers on daylight savings weekend, because I gave that pick out to everyone, and it won. But also the Packers, they have the Cowboys, they have the Titans, and they have the Eagles coming up. The Packers suck at stopping the run. People have said, oh, they fixed their defense, but they have not been able to stop the run for years now. That has been one of the things that has gotten them eliminated from the playoffs year in and year out. And then you get to face the Eagles, who've been running the hell out of the ball, the Titans with Derrick Henry in the cold, and the Cowboys, whose defense is going to make life really tough for Aaron Rodgers. This team is staring 3-9 in the face going into their bye week. The Packers, they're done. The Packers are completely done. And, Rodgers, he might retire after the season. He doesn't look happy. He looks miserable on the sideline. And it seemed like the only reason for him coming back was he thought, oh, the NFC is weak. I can win a Super Bowl here. And the NFC is weak. He's one of those weak teams. It's crazy that the Packers are going to miss the playoffs. that wasn't the only great game. I mean, we had Chargers, Falcons, and those two teams are still sort of in the playoffs. And these are two teams that we've seen them lose games in all sorts of ways, time in and time out. It was another blown double-digit lead from the Falcons. Although they're frisky, they're still in the NFC South race because the Bucks stink, and the Chargers they win, and it was a gutsy win. I mean, this team is decimated by injury. Rashawn Slater and Joey Bosa are out for the season. Slater's their best offensive lineman. Bosa's arguably their best defender. J.C. Jackson's out for the season, who is their big free agent signing, and he's even been wasn't playing great to begin with. Derwin James, season injury waiting to happen, if we're being honest. Although Herbert looks like he's back to being 100%. Keenan Allen and Mike Williams were out. It was a gutsy win for the Chargers, but I think between Brandon Staley as being their head coach and the injuries, their luck might run out. Dolphins Bears. I mean, this was one of the best games of the day. One of my other locks of the week was the over in this game, and that over hit in the third quarter. Yeah, literally with 8 minutes left in the third quarter, that over hit. And man, Justin Fields, he had his coming out party. Now I'm not I'm not gonna sit here and be like, oh, Justin Fields is it. Justin Fields is, arrived. But he definitely has looked a lot better the last couple of weeks. Now, again, a lot of what he's doing is with his legs, and he's done some incredible plays with his legs. He's made some better throws in the last couple of weeks. He threw 3 touchdowns last week. I started to see a lot more out of Fields. I'm liking the progression I've seen from him over the last couple of weeks. Especially most rookie QBs rookie QBs, second-year QBs, third-year QBs making their first career starting against a Belichick defense, they get whomped. And he played well against the Belichick defense. Yeah, this Patriots team isn't what it was. They're still 5-4, and they still have a strong defense. So I'm liking from what I'm seeing out of Justin so far. Or not so far. I'd say the last 3 games, I'd say. With him, the Bears, the defense sucks. The roster sucks. Eberflus is getting the most out of them. And I'm kind of shocked they traded that second for Claypool when, I guess it was the Ravens second, but it's still kind of a weird trade. Let's see. What else do we have? Oh, the Dolphins, too. Tua is 6-0. Now, I've been part of Tuanon. I had been a member of Tuanon the entire time, believing in this guy. I think he got a raw hand his first 2 years with an awful offensive line. Still, with lingering injuries from college here and there. Not great. I guess Jalen Waddle was pretty good last year, but that was still Waddle's a second-year receiver. Now you've added Tyreek Hill. You've added Teron Armstead. This Dolphins offensive line is better. Tyreek Hill has added a new layer, and we are seeing Tua Tagovailoa finally show, what he did at Alabama and why there was a whole tank for Tua thing going on before Joe Burrow ended up going off and having the best season in college football history. So I like this Dolphins team a lot. I think Mike McDaniel is a fantastic head coach. A fantastic head coach. That Kyle Shanahan tree, and I'm going to talk about Kyle Shanahan a little later in this show, has proven to be absolutely special. So I guess you call it the Mike Shanahan tree because we all know, all the guys who were on that Washington staff years ago. Not going to beat a dead horse. A couple of games that were the only games that were really blowouts, Patriots, Colts, and Bengals, Panthers. Look, I said maybe take 5.5 with Patriots, Colts. I didn't. I decided not to touch that game, and Patriots, they do what they do. I mean, Sam Ehlinger looked horrible. He's clearly not the answer. But the Colts, man, they fire Frank Reich. Good decision because Frank Reich had been running this thing into the ground for the last couple years now. And Jim Irsay was the last person to see it. But Jim Irsay, is he drinking again? What is he doing hiring Jeff Saturday to be the head coach? That is laughable. Jeff Saturday, a guy who zero NFL experience, a guy who the only coaching job he had was high school, and he went 3-7. 3-7 coaching a high school team. What makes you think that all of a sudden Jeff Saturday is going to come and be a good coach? This has nothing to do with even Reggie Wayne's on the staff. If you want sentiment, go with Reggie Wayne, who at least is a coach. Go with Gus Bradley. I know he's a horrible coach for the Jags. I see you in here, Steve. Gus Bradley was a horrible coach for the Jags. He has head coaching experience. Anybody but Jeff Saturday. It looks like they're going for the tank job there. And, there's this guy calling plays. I've never even heard of him. Like Park, that's his name. Park, like it's either a tank job, like the one of the most obvious tank jobs we've seen, or Jim Irsay's back drinking again. And like, I wouldn't be surprised if it was either one, if we're being honest. Patriots, like I said, 5-4. Schedule lightens up. I mean, this team could. I mean, no matter who's a QB, if Belichick's the head coach, this team is guaranteed to probably win at worst 7 games. Bengals, Panthers. Bengals after getting mollywopped by the. Sorry, I want to see what Steve said. Oh yeah, it's horrible. Like, who in the locker room is gonna want this? Guy who's coming from ESPN who to be their head coach. I don't get it. Like, it still makes no sense to me. And then Bengals, Panthers, the other team that fired their head coach a couple weeks ago. They look like they're in that race for the first pick. PJ Walker, he had his moments against the Falcons, but come on, PJ Walker is not it. I think we all know that. Baker actually came in and looked pretty decent, but Carolina, like, they're heading towards a top 3 pick at worst, or best or worst, depending on how you look at it, top 5 pick. Bengals bounce back from there. They got to pile on these wins against the bad teams, the Bengals, because they have a pretty tough schedule coming up down the stretch. That playoff race, I'm going to talk about it in a bit, is going to be pretty intense coming up. Bills, Jets. I mean, you have the Jets kicker literally slipping on the opening kickoff, and it looks like same old Jets. First play from scrimmage, Allen, Stephon Diggs bomb. They're in the red zone. But then the Jets get a pick. And, man, this Jets team, they are different. Zach Wilson outplayed Josh Allen. Now, look, Zach Wilson's obviously not better than Josh Allen, but he outplayed him. It was probably the best game that Zach Wilson needed to play all year. And honestly, like, great for him. In their biggest game of the season against arguably the best team in the NFL, when he's been looking pretty bad the last couple weeks, Wilson steps up. The Wilson duo was looking good. They beat the Bills, and Sauce Gardner, the guy that I said was my top overall prospect coming into the draft, called that, played great again, had an interception, and he has this Jets defense rolling. Robert Saleh is a fantastic coach, and if this Jets offense can just be like average, then this team is really, really good and should be rolling towards the playoffs. Bills, like a cause for concern to miss the playoffs, no. But when the Bills have lost in the last 2 years, it's been these games the offense just disappears. Allen just makes these weird throws. The offensive line isn't protecting. That's what happened against the Jags, or that's what happened against the Jags last year. Happened against the Jets. So, if that happens to them in the playoffs, there's a concern for them, especially as my AFC pick preseason. Vikings commies. It was the Kirk Cousins revenge game. And yet it was like another close Vikings win. Like, they were quietly 7-1. And I don't think anyone actually, but they're 7-1. Most teams that are 7-1 with a top 5, top 10 running back in Dalvin Cook, a top 5 receiver in Justin Jefferson, are Super Bowl contender. But you know what? Like, it's Kirk Cousins. Look, Kirk Cousins has been putting up good numbers, but we all know how Kirk gets in prime time. We saw him. The one time we see Minnesota in prime time this year, he absolutely folded. And yeah, look, they're playing all these one-score games against the Bears, one-score games against the Lions, one-score games against just not very good opponents. They're better than the Commanders, if we're being honest, and that was a one-score game where, heck of a comeback by Kirk in that fourth quarter. Because I actually thought the Commies had it, and it was going to be typical Kirk. Can't even win a revenge game at 1 o'clock on a Sunday against the Commanders team in disarray. But, the Commanders, credit to them because they were on a 3-game winning streak, and they've been playing a lot better with Heineke. Terry McLaurin, without Carson Wentz, looks like about to be in the Terry McLaurin we know. Just a tough loss for the Commanders. That knocks them to 4-5. For them, it's been a case with the Giants where they have all these division games coming up. That's going to really determine could they contend for the wild card. And the Vikings, we'll see a lot about them if they're a legitimate contender over the next 3 weeks. They have the Bills, although the Bills might be without Josh Allen, which could be a huge break for them. The Cowboys, Kirk has gone up against them a lot of times. It's a great defense. And the Patriots, which will be in prime time, Thursday night, Thanksgiving. Uh, I don't know. We'll see about the Vikings over these next 3 games. And the Commanders, they look competent with Heineke. Steve, I hope you're still here because now we're going to talk about your Jaguars coming back against the Raiders. First off, probably my dumbest prediction of the preseason was calling Josh McDaniels the coach of the year. I was not high on the hire, and I let some friends, some other people, talk me into the Raiders. I think McDaniels could do it this time. Oh boy, but I must have been drunker than Jim Irsay when I was making my prediction about the Raiders because Josh McDaniels, he stinks. He absolutely stinks. I thought the Raiders could not do worse of a hire than John Gruden. Somehow. Credit them because they actually did play decent under John Gruden, I'll be honest. Now, I thought Gruden was a horrible hire. But at least, there were maybe like 7 to 8 wins with him. Maybe like 6. Then they had the one year they were 6-6 and lost their last 4 games, or 6-5 and lost the last 5 games. But McDaniels, oh my God, he has just been he's just been so bad. It's literally, at least with Denver, he tricked us all when he started 6-0. Now in Vegas, he's starting like 2 and whatever. He's now 2-6 as opposed to being 6-0 when he was there. They're in trouble. Like I don't see anyways McDaniel the way he's coaching. That's their third blown lead of 17 points. They were up 17-0 against the Jaguars. And I'm sorry, I'm sorry, Steve. The Jaguars, look, they've been better this year. But that's not a team you should be blowing a 17-0 lead to. They blew a 17-0 lead against the Cardinals. When Kyler Murray is a QB who usually folds in the second half. They blew that lead against the Chiefs. Okay, blowing that lead to the Chiefs, that's the Chiefs. It's whatever. Everyone knew when that game was 17-0, the Chiefs were going to win. Right? I think we all sort of knew that. But man, this is just an embarrassing team. This is a team that, with a special teams coach and Rich Bisaccia, got the most out of a roster and took them to the playoffs. And now they're just in complete and utter disarray. I don't know where they're going. Jaguars, good and scrappy team. Now they're what? Now 3 wins, 3-6, or 3-5 or 3-6. They're not going to the playoffs, but this team actually looks like they're going the right direction as opposed to the shit show they've been the last few years, really since that AFC Championship game. Moving on, so really we just have the 4:00 games. Seahawks, Cardinals, and I had the under in this game. The over hitting at the last minute was really the only bet that lost. 4 straight W's for the Seahawks now, and I am a full-on believer in this Seahawks. I lost a good amount because I had a substantial amount invested in the Seattle Seahawks under 5.5 wins. I thought this was one of the worst rosters in football, but oh my God, have they proved me wrong. Pete Carroll, everyone was thinking, oh, Pete Carroll was the problem. Pete Carroll was the problem. But as we've seen in Denver, who the real problem was. What Pete Carroll is doing is just unbelievable. Winning with Geno Smith, a guy who was cast off years ago by everyone, a guy who looked like a complete bust. I think they're the youngest roster in the NFL. Kenneth Walker looks like a superstar coming out as just a rookie. Tariq Woolen, this was a guy I actually wanted the Giants to take in the 4th or 5th round in the draft. Seattle got him in the 5th round. He's been an absolute stud, probably the second best rookie behind Sauce Gardner. It has been so impressive what Seattle has done, the job Pete Carroll has done. Getting the most out of this offense, getting the most out of this defense. And this after they lost Jamal Adams in week 1. Jamal Adams, he kind of gets memed on at times, but he's still an impact player. They lost Jamal Adams, and they've only gotten better. Pete Carroll, he is definitely he is up there with Brian Daboll and with Nick Sirianni as one of the favorites for Coach of the Year, no doubt. I love what they're doing. Cardinals, they continue to stink. They usually start hot. Not even they. Cliff Kingsbury, he's known for starting hot and tailoring off. Well, he didn't even start hot this year. And now Call of Duty's out, where Kyler Murray struggles. It's November where Cliff struggles. I think Cliff was probably the next head coach to be gone. I'd be stunned if he makes it through the season. And I saw a poll today that rated Brian Daboll as the second sexiest head coach. You fire Cliff Kingsbury. Guess who's taken over as the sexiest head coach? Although I was listening to part of my take, and they were saying Cliff Kingsbury, he might just fall up again. He got fired from Texas Tech after having a losing record in the Big 12, mind you. Got an NFL job. He might just fall up again. And Bucks Rams, I mean, like this game was like a snooze fest. The Bucks won, but like, were they impressive at all? No, this was my preseason NFC title game, and instead I barely watched the game. This game was barely on NFL Red Zone. I was going out to dinner with my family, so I missed the end of the game. And yeah, like I mean, the Rams, they are in big, 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 big trouble. Holy shit! I mean, now Stafford's in concussion protocol. The offensive line is a joke. I thought Andrew Whitworth retiring would hurt the O line. It has been beyond detrimental. Cooper Kupp, I mean, he's the only receiver they have. Allen Robinson, I've been an Allen Robinson believer. I guess you could call myself an Allen Robinson truther. Oh, I made excuses for him. Yes, Steve, I agree. The Rams are cooked. Aaron Donald's not playing an Aaron Donald level. Jalen Ramsey has not been the same long-time corner. They don't really have a great number 2 corner next to Jalen Ramsey. They're cooked. The line is not good. Stafford is not playing 100%. Cam Akers, they have no running game. Les Snead is apparently, trying to trade any first-round pick. No one wants, to take these first-round picks from him anymore. It's a mess. What's going on? And the Bucks, assuming they can make the playoffs because the NFC South sucks. I mean, they're tied for first place at 4-5, and it's Tom Brady. Like I'm not betting against Tom Brady. Sunday night game. I'll be honest. I did not watch Sunday night. I went to bed at like 9:30 on Sunday night. Look, the Titans played well. I know, Steve, you're not going to like hearing this, but Mike Vrabel is a fantastic head coach. The Titans roster is not very good. You're right. The Titans are not that good of a team. Yet he wins with Ryan Tannehill at QB, with Robert Woods on one knee pretty much as number 1 wide receiver. Same thing with Traylon Burks. The big thing for them is they have one of the best offensive players in the league in Derrick Henry. They have one of the best defensive players in the league in Jeffrey Simmons. I mean, Simmons has been better than Aaron Donald this season, and arguably second place behind Micah Parsons for Defensive Player of the Year. The Titans, they won the AFC South by default. I mean, you saw one of those other AFC South teams, the Texans, who are first overall pick contention, and they got blown out by not even blown out. They covered the spread against the Eagles, and I don't care. I don't care if they're undefeated. I am still going to the grave, and I will say the Eagles are overrated. They are the worst 8-0 team I think I have ever seen. And for them, they play such an easy schedule. They could go 17-0. They could go 17-0 with their easy schedule. But you know what? They're still going to be overrated in my mind. If they go 17-0, I guarantee they don't even make it to the Super Bowl. This team, wait for them. If they have to come from behind, they are gonna, they might struggle. Look, I am gonna be someone. This Eagles team is not as good as everyone thinks they are. Yeah. I guess they're good, and the NFC hasn't been good at all this year. They've been able to take advantage of that. But I'm telling you, this Eagles team is not as good as 9-0 would suggest or 8-0 would suggest. They're going to come crashing and burning come playoff time, and I cannot wait. I cannot wait to see Philly come crashing and burning. Now, Philly, I was on your side for the World Series. But now, I will never, ever be on your side in football. Steve, we're going to get into that shortly, my NFC-AFC pick. Last thing, Monday Night Football. Ravens beat the Saints. Saints are in big trouble. Eagles own their pick, of course, because everything gets handed to this fucking scumbag Philly fan base. Ravens, though, they're hot. They now have the easiest remaining schedule. They've won 3 games in a row. They got Roquan Smith. They're getting David Ojabo back from injury. Defense is playing better. They're hot. Watch out for the Ravens because they're ready to make some noise in the AFC. So that's it. That's it for going back to Week 9. Again, Week 9 was epic. Week 9 was absolutely epic. Now we're going to talk about preseason predictions, some takes I had that weren't too good, and then, some awards I had. So first we're going to go back with my awards, and I had Josh Allen winning MVP. I still am keeping that cautiously with how this elbow is going to affect him. I think Pat Mahomes is probably I'd say Pat, if not Allen, Pat Mahomes, because I think if this elbow thing does stop Allen and force him to miss a couple games, Mahomes will overtake him. Uh, my offensive player of the year preseason was Jonathan Taylor, and we've seen how that worked out. I mean, no, it's not like he wishes he probably have prime Jeff Saturday blocking for him. I mean, it sort of just makes no sense how this Colts went from like being the best offensive line to being a problem. And I have Tyreek Hill. I'm an offensive player of the year is usually never won by a quarterback. And Tyreek Hill, he's on pace for over 2,000 receiving yards. So that I mean, he not even over 2,000 receiving yards, like well over 2,000. I believe it's 21-11 is what I saw today. That would shatter the receiving record, be the first receiver to have over 2,000 yards, and he has just been a beast. And also, you see what him going to the Dolphins added to that offense along with Mike McDaniel. He's my offensive player of the year. Defensive player of the year, I had Aaron Donald. I mean, he has not been dominant. He might not even be a finalist this year. And I had like, look, I hate to say it. He's a scumbag. He's a bad human being. He's a bad person. He plays for that scumbag franchise, but it's Micah Parsons. I mean, if anyone who has watched any football this year should know Micah Parsons is defensive player of the year. I mean, he's literally had that shit on lock since week 2. After that game against the Bengals, he's been the front runner, and he has done nothing to let up. Like, I mean, if I'm not going to pick him, I'm either picking Jeffrey Simmons or Nick Bosa. My defensive rookie of the year preseason was Kayvon Thibodeau, and like again, that was all bias in that pick. Like, come on, we had a top 5 pick. We picked a DN top 5. You think I'm not going to pick him to be defensive rookie of the year? You're crazy. And hell, he might be in the race if he's not getting held every single goddamn play. I mean, it's obviously Sauce Gardner. I mean, come on. What Sauce Gardner is doing is just unfreaking believable. He's playing he's not just been the top rookie. He has been one of the top corners in football. And this is a dude. He allowed 0 touchdowns in college. Me and him allowed the same amount of touchdowns against us in man coverage in college. Except the thing is, I also, didn't play. Sauce Gardner did for 4 years. Yeah, he deserved. He was clearly the best player in this draft, in my opinion. I love Kayvon. I was banging for the Giants to get him at 5. The Jets took him at 4. But hey, I like our pick. But Sauce is the defensive rookie of the year. Comeback player of the year, I had CMC preseason. He's doing a lot. I see that right now Saquon Barkley is the betting favorite, and I want to take Saquon so badly, but it's nobody else but Geno Smith. Now, I've seen Brian Robinson on some books. In my opinion, that as a rookie, you shouldn't be getting comeback player of the year. Although what he came back from is incredible. It's Geno Smith. I'm not going to go into Geno Smith and everything I went on, but I talked about him just now. Who, by the way, is on a mural in Germany for the Bucks game this weekend, which is pretty awesome. He's Geno Smith. He's the comeback player of the year. Just everything I said about him, he deserves it. Coach, so preseason I said Josh McDaniel. Oof, man. Just oof. I have Brian Dable. And yes, that comes with a heavy bias. I think the only way Sirianni is winning it is if the Eagles go undefeated. Oh, yeah, shit. I actually missed Offensive Rookie of the Year, Steve. Thank you for letting me go on that. But Coach, I'll get back to it. Coach of the Year, Dable. Full bias. I mean, come on. I mean, this Giants team, I thought we were going to suck. Look at our roster. Brian Dable's the Coach of the Year. And yes, Ken Walker's the Offensive Rookie of the Year. I mean, he has been unbelievable since taking over as the starter. I mean, he might be like what he might be the top running back in football this season if Rashad Penny didn't start those first couple of games. And like Steve, you owe Jason Harris a big thank you for dropping Ken Walker, because that was one of the worst moves I've seen a fantasy football player make this season, and one reason why I might not get last place, although there's a good chance I do. So yeah, that's it with my picks. Gonna go back, so let's look at some teams I was wrong on. Mention the Raiders. So the Jets, I had them at 5-12. I was sort of high on the Jets. I thought they could be good. Then that Zach Wilson injury happened, so I put them at 5-12. That's a team I was wrong on. Broncos, I had them going 10-7. I would still bet the under on their win total, though, because it was 10.5. I didn't think they should be as high as everyone thought they were, but I thought they were good enough to be 10-7. I was wrong on that. I mean, look, I said the entire AFC West was going to finish above 500. That bold prediction was just wrong. It just looks bad. The Colts win the AFC South 11-6, and oh boy, that looks bad. I and you look at the NFC West. I mean, I'm looking at my NFC West predictions. I had the Rams at 14-3, and the Seahawks at 2-15. Well, that ain't happening. That is not happening. I mean, the Rams suck. Seahawks are good. No, I'll tell you my picks in a tiny bit here. You know, I have the Bucks 13-4, the Saints 10-7, the Falcons 1-16. I mean, yeah, we'll see how that's good. You're just seeing how that's going. I had the Packers going 12-5, and look, I said, look, so this is a take. So a take I had before the season. The Packers were not a Super Bowl contender. Josh Allen did not practice today, so that's interesting. I said the Packers were not a Super Bowl contender because of their bad receiving core. I just thought with the Lions, the Bears, and a weak NFC, they'd be good enough to be a playoff team. You know, NFC North or NFC wild card, but nope, they're just a bad team. I was wrong on the Eagles. I mean, I had them going 10-7, squeezing by the NFC East, but they played the easiest schedule of all time, cupcake schedule, and they're going to go 17 or 16-1 probably. Or 15-2, something like that. Giants, I had a 6-11, man. Here we are with already 6 wins, 6-2. It's incredible. Other takes, I was running the Cardinals stinking. Yeah, I think a lot of people, everyone's like, oh, Hollywood Brown, DeAndre Hopkins, they have star talent. They just don't have a good coach, and I don't think Kyler Murray's good. He hasn't been good. Unless you're looking at a fantasy football perspective, Kyler Murray's not been a good quarterback. Another guy I want to talk about, Tariq Woolen, by the way. Like I said, another guy. I know I said I wanted the Giants to take him for their 5th round, but that's just another credit to me for knowing Tariq Woolen was going to be a superstar. I mean, I saw that guy, 6'5" corner at a UTSA with one of their best years ever last season. I knew that dude was going to be him. Team picks, mid-season prediction. So my preseason picks, I had the Rams, I had the Bucks, I had the Packers, I had the Eagles, I had the Niners, I had the Saints, I had the Vikings making the playoffs. In the AFC, I had the Bills, the Chiefs, the Ravens, the Colts, the Bengals, the Raiders, and the Chargers. So now we're switching it up. I still have the Eagles making it. I still have the Bucks making it, winning their divisions. I still have the Vikings making it, although winning the NFC North as opposed to being a wild card. I have the Seahawks winning the NFC West. I have the Cowboys, the G-Men, baby, and the Niners all getting in as my wild card teams. I just think the Niners being at 4-4, they're going to play a little bit of catch up to the Seahawks, and the Seahawks have a big game against them at home in prime time, which I think could be the difference maker. But I still like the Niners to get in. AFC, I still have the Bills, I still have the Chiefs, I still have the Ravens winning their divisions. I have the Titans winning the AFC South. I still have the Chargers getting in as a wild card, and the Jets and the Dolphins both getting into the playoffs as well as wild cards. That's right. I have the Bengals missing the postseason. The Bengals, I just think that they're not injured, but Jamar Chase being out. Hopefully he's back soon. That's a big loss. But they have a tough schedule. They have the Bills. They have the Chiefs. They have the Bucs. Yeah, they're struggling, but you never know. The Bucs could turn it around. They still have Tom Brady. They have the Patriots. A really tough second half schedule. So for my preseason pick, I have the Bengals dropping out. I have the Raiders dropping out, and I have the Colts dropping out for the Titans, the Jets, and the Dolphins. In the NFC, I have the Packers dropping out. I have the Saints dropping out, and I have the Rams dropping out for the Seahawks, for the G-Men, and for the Cowboys. Now, even though I said I have the Niners getting in as a wild card, I'm changing my NFC pick, and I'm picking the Niners to win the NFC. That's right. They're going to go on the road. They're going to win all their playoff games on the road. They're going to win the NFC. I think Kyle Shanahan is just such a great coach. Christian McCaffrey, Deebo Samuel, Brandon Ayuk, George Kittle, a good offensive line, so many weapons to work with, one of the top defenses in football. I love the Niners to win the NFC, and I'm still continuing to pick the Bills out of the AFC. And I have the Niners winning the Super Bowl over the Bills. That's right. I have the Niners just winning this year's Super Bowl. I think the pieces with Kyle Shanahan is one of the best offensive minds in all of football. You look at the coaches, McVay, LaFleur, although we're seeing LaFleur kind of get exposed as a fraud this year. McDaniel up in Miami, all doing good, all from the Kyle Shanahan tree. Robert Saleh, and then D'Amico Ryans is a lot of people like D'Amico Ryans. A great defense, a lot of pieces on offense. They're going to win the NFC. They're going to win the Super Bowl. I really like this team. And how about that? That Jimmy Garoppolo is going to enter free agency as a Super Bowl champion quarterback. That's just, you can't make some of this stuff up. It really is interesting. Couple things, but we're going to do some cleanup. We're going to do Week 10 picks. Actually, another thing, talking about old stuff. I'm going to look at some of my NFL futures that I had and seeing updates on them. Lots of not looking good. We had the Bucks over 11.5 wins. That's not looking good. Rams over 10.5. That thing is in the water. We had the Eagles under 9.5. Yeah, that's not happening. We had Kayvon Thibodeau win Defensive Rookie of the Year. Garrett Wilson winning Offensive Rookie of the Year. And we had a little. We put about $1 to win 100 on Trey Lance MVP. Well, that was a while ago, well before Week 1. Bosa Defensive Player of the Year, or actually, Joey Bosa Defensive Player of the Year. We have, let's see, Dobbins comeback. A little $1 sprinkle on Desmond Ridder Offensive Rookie of the Year, and as I mentioned, the Seahawks under 5.5 wins. Now we still have a few things out there. That's how the futures are looking, though. Could have done better. Could be doing better. Although Vikings division looks great. It's just one thing I got to touch on this episode. I still haven't, is the Xavier McKinney incident. Man, really, everything. For once, things were going good. For once, things were going good for the G-men. 6-2 at the bye week. Xavier McKinney, he's played every snap this season. And now a boneheaded ATV sightseeing accident. And now Xavier McKinney is likely out for the season. He said he didn't know his timetable. When you hear you don't know their timetable, that usually means they're out for the season. You saw him in his press conference getting super defensive with the press. You saw that whole cast he was in. It's not good. It's not good. Come on, McKinney. Look, you're one of the captains of this team. And you're one of my favorite players on the Giants, a guy that I have defended and that I have praised a ton. And now you're doing stupid stuff like that. It stinks, especially when you have this team 6-2, playing well above expectations. We lose one of our best defensive players now for down the stretch when our schedule gets tougher. That's a big, big loss. And look, I still love McKinney. He's still one of my favorite players on this team, but I'm highly disappointed in him. It was idiocy going on in the ATV and claiming sightseeing. If Jihad Ward's you're seeing Jihad Ward's Instagram where he's literally riding it like a dirt bike. This was just, this shit sucks, man. It sucks. Belton's looked good. Julian Love's gonna have to play a lot more. Are we gonna have to play Landon Collins at safety, Tony Jefferson more in safety when they're both better in the box? McKinney was the guy. He was. I don't know if he was the best player on this defense. He might have well been. He honestly might be the best player on this defense. There, Leonard Williams, Dexter Lawrence, Adoree Jackson all have their cases, but he's the guy who's played 100% of snaps for this defense. Shit, man, this sucks. I guess we'll go in the Week 10 picks from there. So, yeah, lots of NFL talk there was. There's a lot to cover. There was last week. There was midseason stuff. So going on Thursday night, I have Atlanta beating Carolina again. I just think Carolina, not very good. Season's down the drain. I have Seattle winning in Germany. This team continues to play fun. They continue to play loose. It's gonna be early for Brady. He's gonna be tired, grumpy. I just don't see Brady really getting up and excited to play a game in Germany. Bills, Vikings. I have the Bills winning this game. Uh, Although that's dependent on if Josh Allen plays or not. I have the Bears beating the Lions. Justin Fields wins another game. Titans over the Broncos. Although this is definitely a trap game for the Titans. They played a really competitive game against the Chiefs just now. They're playing high. I kind of like the Broncos plus 3.5 in this game. No, I haven't really looked at many of the lines yet. But overall, I like the Titans to win. I think Chiefs gonna molly off the Jaguars. I actually one of my big upsets. I think the Browns are going to go into Miami and kind of stun the Dolphins. I think coming off the bye, they're going to be energized, motivated, and they're going to pull off somewhat of an upset here in Miami. Get a good win for this team. I have the Giants beating the Texans. Look, thank God that first game without McKinney comes against Houston because I think Houston's terrible, worst team in football, and I feel like we always play well against them. I have the Steelers beating the Saints. I mean, the Saints are a dumpster fire. Andy Dalton. Andy Dalton, too. I mean, he sucks against Pittsburgh. I've never ever seen has Andy Dalton maybe beat Pittsburgh twice, 3 times, and not to mention that game's outdoors, and New Orleans just has a history of struggling going outdoors as it get colder. Vegas. I have Josh McDaniels in Vegas beating the Colts because Jeff Saturday might be the one guy in this league who's a worse coach than Josh McDaniels is right now. Cowboys being the Packers. The Packers free fall continues, but I'll be saying, go, Pack, go. Rams, I think they get off the schneid against the Cardinals. I mean, this is a must win. This is loser leaves town. Loser has no chance of winning the NFC West, making a wild card game. Rams, Cardinals, winner has to survive. I think Rams survive. I think on Sunday Night Football, we get a Niners victory over the Chargers, the start of them starting to make it towards the playoffs. And we get the Eagles going 9-0 because they have such an easy schedule and they're overrated and the worst 9-0 team ever. And I cannot wait till it comes crashing and burning in the postseason. So, yeah, that's it for NFL. College basketball. Look, I'm honestly just going to touch on college basketball because there's just, if I dive deep into college basketball, this could go on. I literally sporadically my predictions. So I have in the ACC UNC winning, although I think UVA is my sleeper in there. In the Big 12, I have Baylor winning. They're obviously Baylor. They're a great team. Texas is my sleeper in that conference, though. I have Creighton winning the Big East as the favorite. If you listen to me on college basketball last year, I love the Creighton Blue Jays. My sleeper there, St. John's. Michigan State is my team to win the Big Ten. Indiana's the favorite, but no one's talking about Michigan State. I feel like that's the year Michigan State could just come out and do it. I like UCLA in the Pac-12. Arizona's a sleeper, as they usually are. SEC is going to be Arkansas, Kentucky, battling it out. Now, if you've heard me talk college basketball, I love Arkansas and love Eric Musselman. So I'll have them winning the SEC. And speaking of love, I have Caleb Love winning my ACC Player of the Year. I mean, it's going to be him or Armando Bacon. I'm going to lead him just because, I don't know, I kind of like leaning guards. I have Adam Flagler winning Big 12 Player of the Year. I mean, anybody could win that. Big East, Andre Curbelo, I think he breaks out at St. John's, wins that Big East Player of the Year. Hunter Dickinson, Big 10 Player of the Year. Jaquez Jr., Pac-12. And, yeah, we're going to have Oscar Tshiebwe again winning SEC Player of the Year. But National Player of the Year not coming from any of these schools is going to be Drew Timme from Gonzaga. He's the top dog. He's the alpha there. There's no Jalen Suggs for him. There's no Corey Kispert. There's no Chet Holmgren for him to share the wealth with. No, this is all Drew Timme's team. I mean, he's been playing literally since I've been in high school. So, yeah, he's the National Player of the Year. And I have Kentucky winning it all this year. Kentucky's added shooting outside. Tshiebwe is a beast on the boards, a returning National Player of the Year. And I think, they have a little bit of UVA, we choked in the first round vibes, going to win it all the next year. That's it. So college football. So now we're gonna get into college football talk. And yeah, we're not talking NBA. You know, I went into this whole Kyrie shit already. Uh, you know how I feel. I'm Jewish. I think you guys know how I feel about Kyrie's comments. College football reaction. I mean, first off, just what a weekend of college football. I had a wedding a few weeks ago. After the wedding weekend, I stayed in Columbus, did game day there. I went out for game day. It was Halloween weekend. This past Saturday was laying in my bed all day watching college football from noon until midnight. And oh man, it was great. I mean, we had three of the top six fall. I mean, what did I say? I mean, UGA was gonna mollywop Tennessee. I saw it coming. I predicted it. You know, I thought look, Tennessee was good, but I knew Georgia when they have to get up for a game, they get up. They're the defending champions. I'm sorry, Tennessee and Josh Heupel's second year was not gonna beat Kirby Smart. Hendon Hooker was not gonna do anything, anything special. Like he's good. He did not go up against Georgia's defense. Everyone wants to look. Tennessee's blown out everyone they've played, and they deserve to be top five for sure. But the SEC is not as good as everyone's made it out to be this year. Like, of course, they have five teams in the top 11 and one other ranked team that's a three-loss team. Like Kentucky just got mollywopped and they win again. Like, they struggle to beat. So Kentucky, after getting mollywopped by Tennessee, so like after getting mollywopped by Tennessee and struggling against 4-5 Missouri, we rank Kentucky. It just, I mean, the SEC bias is a joke. But look, I'm going to go into those rankings in a second here. I want to talk about the games. I mean, LSU, Bama, that was awesome. I mean, seeing LSU win in double overtime. I mean, Brian Kelly, the world was screaming for Brian Kelly to go for two there. And Brian Kelly did go for two. He beat the Tide. And then now they're first place in the SEC West, with that other loss being the FSU. And I have been dogging LSU ever since losing week one. But Brian Kelly, he's really turned it around this season, and he's shown, look, he's a great X's and O's coach. That's a win. That's a win that gets recruits to want to come to LSU and could, that's a win that's going to helps build LSU back in the SEC powerhouse in just a few years. The UGA, again, they mollywop Tennessee. Clemson. So like Ohio State, we struggle with Northwestern, and I'm gonna break down that Northwestern game in a little bit here. But oh my God, I can't like Clemson fans. They were mocking us. Oh, they were saying, talking all this crap at Ohio State for showing against Northwestern, and rightfully so. Don't get me wrong. Like Clemson fans, you want to talk your shit. We've been talking shit about you guys struggling all season long. But oh man, for you guys, oh wait, the best is though Danny Cannell, Danny Cannell saying, "Well, Clemson will be undefeated if they played Ohio State schedule, right?" Well, guess what? They have one common opponent, and they got their shit brought by Notre Dame. That's right. This is a Notre Dame team that's not very good this season, but the committee to make Clemson look good ranks them, which again I'm going to get into shortly. But Clemson, like, they got crushed by Notre Dame, and you're coming off the bye week. You were 2 weeks prepared for this game. Notre Dame had to travel to Syracuse, play a game up in Syracuse, back to South Bend. Not the craziest travel, and still traveling while you're sitting at home with 2 weeks to prepare. Committing the DJ ukulele boy as starter, only to pull him. Put in the backup kid Klubnik, only to pull Klubnik and put him in. I mean, it was a disaster from Clemson from the get-go, and I loved seeing them lose. Didn't like seeing where they fell in the rankings, though. We're going to get into that right after talking about Ohio State. And I'm concerned about Ohio State. Look, I mean, you have some fans out there who are just Ohio State, only put on Ohio State blinders and think, oh, Ohio State, we're the number one team in the country because we're Ohio State. Like, no, like, put on your blinds. If you're listening to this, you know who I'm talking about. It's pretty obvious if you know what I'm talking about. Ohio State, like, we struggled. Okay, I looked at the Iowa game as a struggle. Look, we struggled. But in the end, if that's our worst game, putting up 54 points, I was happy. That was against the top 3 defense. Penn State was, okay, on the road at Penn State. We always struggle there. But I was more concerned. The offensive line not looked good. And then Northwestern. And like you can say all this stuff. Oh, rain, this, and the weather was shit. The weather was shit. But you're Ohio State. They're Northwestern. They are a one-win team. You should be able to play a game in bad conditions against this team. A bully ball. You should be able to easily run for 300 yards against them. And I hear some people, oh, they ended up running for 200 yards. Yeah, that was at the end of the game, the fourth quarter when it's out of over. They should have been running the ball down their throats the entire game. And guess what? For 3 quarters, Northwestern was stuffing our run, and Northwestern was honestly getting a lot of gaps in the run. The thing for Northwestern, they just simply could not pass the ball, and that's why the offense really struggled to get anything, going if there was ever a third down situation. But they moved the ball. They got a lot of yards per carry because, look, the Ohio State team that's come out and that has played against Northwestern, Penn State, and Iowa, that's a team that's not going to beat Michigan. Especially with the way Michigan runs the football and dominates the line of scrimmage. We have not been dominating the line of scrimmage the last couple of weeks. Outside of JD Tuamoli. Now, I am not saying we're going to lose to Michigan. But we have to play better. We have to play better. The offensive line needs to be tougher. We got to stop the run. We can't be allowing chunk plays, and the secondary has to be better because we allow Michigan to establish the run. There's a good chance I could see McCarthy beating us deep with our poor secondary. Anyways, ranking time. So this committee, the committee is kind of a joke at this point, right? All right. I think they got 1 through 7 right, with 1 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Tennessee, 1 Ohio State, 1 Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Michigan, 4 TCU, 5 Tennessee, 6 Oregon, 7 LSU. I think they got that right. But from here, all of a sudden it gets weird. Like, of course, Alabama's at 9 as a 2-loss team. Now, I'm not mad about that because it's Alabama and they are good. But Clemson at 10. Clemson at 10 after getting blown out. Are you kidding me? How are they ahead of UCLA? And how are they? They should not be ahead of UCLA. They shouldn't be ahead of Ole Miss. That makes no sense to have Clemson that far ahead of them. Oh, and USC. What is USC doing that far ahead of UCLA? USC and UCLA each have 1 loss. Why are they that far separated? USC is 0 ranked wins. How are they the 8th best team in the country when they're struggling with Cal, they're struggling with Oregon State? USC has one of the worst defenses in the country especially of all the ranked teams. UCLA beat down their common opponent in Utah, and there are all these spots behind them. It makes no sense to me. The committee does all these things that makes 0 sense. Again, top 7 I like. Even Bama at 8 or 9 I could have accepted. But UCLA and Ole Miss behind Clemson, come on, what are we doing here? Clemson just got the shit pumped in. Okay, Ole Miss, maybe you convince me about Ole Miss. Maybe you convince me about them being ahead of Ole Miss because, again, I've kind of shit on Ole Miss here last week. But it really doesn't make sense when they got blown out by Notre Dame, looking poorly. The offense has looked lost the last 2 weeks, and the committee, they're just, it's brand bias. Look, there is brand bias. Brand bias just favored Ohio State. Brand bias just favored Alabama. But this Clemson team, those 2 teams have at least shown something to have brand bias favor them. Clemson hasn't. Clemson has not. Honestly, and then also some of the teams that they ranked in the bottom, adding Kentucky in there. Really? They added Kentucky in there? That didn't make sense when they added Kentucky in there. Just, again, they barely beat Missouri a week after getting mollywopped by Tennessee. SEC bias. Even adding in Notre Dame up to 20. Notre Dame lost at home to Marshall. Notre Dame lost at home to Stanford. Notre Dame would barely beat Cal. Look, helps Ohio State. But now it justifies that should not be a quality loss. Anyways, there's a lot of question marks. So, again, we know Georgia, a Big Ten winner, and undefeated TCU are in. From there, questions arise. I think the biggest thing is that 4th spot would be between Tennessee and the Pac-12 winner. Now, again, this is if Ohio State and TCU, or this is assuming Ohio State or Michigan, TCU, and Georgia all win out. They're all top 3. It might be everyone says it's a foregone conclusion. Tennessee's 4. Look, I think USC, if they end up winning out, they have a resume that's worthy of being a top 4 team. They're a conference champion. Same thing with UCLA, would avenge that one loss. And everyone wants to hang that 46-point loss on Oregon against them. Look, that was week 1. Bo Nix's first career start for the Ducks. They have blown out everybody since. So you take away that week 1 game, they've looked like one of the best teams in the country. And if they win, if they win the Pac-12, I think any Pac-12 winner should be getting in over Tennessee if it comes to that. Now TCU is more likely than not going to lose a game, and I think the Pac-12 winner and Tennessee both get in over TCU, even if TCU wins the conference as a one-loss champion. But I think TCU is going to lose multiple games. So from there, like there still is a lot of questions moving forward. Because if TCU, if TCU wins out, and if Clemson wins out, I don't see Clemson getting in like one of those scenarios. Like that path is too hard. They need TCU to not win the conference, and they need a 2-loss Pac-12 champion. And like even then, like Georgia, they need Georgia and Ohio for Clemson again. They need Georgia and Ohio State to go undefeated. They need the Pac-12 champion to have multiple losses, because then that would put Georgia, Ohio State, and Tennessee in, and then they'd be battling against Michigan for that last spot. And I don't even know if they would put Clemson in over Michigan, because if Michigan beats Ohio State and it's Georgia 1, Michigan 2, Tennessee 3. Again, this is like a multiple loss Pac-12 champion. TCU loses 2 losses or loses in the Big 12 championship. And that 4th spot's been Ohio State and Clemson. And Notre Dame's that common opponent. Ohio State's getting in. I think so. Like LSU. Like I'm trying to think. If LSU wins the SEC, I think they'll put. I think they would put in 3 SEC teams in there. That actually is my prediction. I have that's just my prediction. The SEC. So I'm trying to think. Yeah. If TCU doesn't go undefeated and LSU wins out, I have them getting in. I think they'll be in over Georgia, because I think they'll have the win over Georgia. I think they put 3 SEC teams out. I just think they would. Because then all of a sudden Tennessee is the win over LSU, LSU is the win over Georgia, Georgia's the win over Tennessee. Now, I don't think that's happening. Do not have that happening at all. At the end of the day, like I think Georgia's going to beat the Tennessee. I have my same 4 as last week with Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Tennessee, and Michigan 3. And look, I think the reason is I think they're going to be the only 4 teams in the country that are playing a Power 5 conference that have 1 or fewer losses. Georgia 1, Ohio State 2, Tennessee 3, Michigan 4. Again, that's the same thing I had last week. I'm trying to think. Again, I have already won the Pac-12. I have them winning as a 2-loss champion. I have TCU winning the Big 12, but I have them still losing 2 games. Clemson, I still have them losing that game to South Carolina, mind you. I remember I said that last week, and I have that. But that's it with the college football playoffs. So quickly going to give some of my picks that I have for this week and look at some gambling lines I like. So I have Texas beating TCU, and TCU suffering their first loss of the season. Although I kind of like TCU +7 in that game. I think everyone's going to be on Texas. Everyone's talking about Texas winning that game. TCU's going to be motivated, so I like them +7. Although Quentin Johnston, he's likely out. That's a big, big, big loss for this team. Look, after LSU, here's how college football is a weird sport. Arkansas just lost at home to Liberty. LSU just beat Alabama. LSU goes to Arkansas to play this week. I have Arkansas pulling the upset. College football is just weird that way. And I know they're decimated by injury, but I just have a weird feeling. I have Bama's gonna crush Ole Miss, and yeah, after that I'll saw my Ole Miss should be ahead of Clemson arguments. Oregon's gonna beat Washington, continue to cement their case for being one of the best teams in college football and being a top 4 team when it's all said and done. I have Cuse beating FSU. FSU just got back in the rankings, giving Clemson yet another quality win. I think part of that has to do with them beating LSU and SEC bias here and there. But I have Cuse beating Florida State. Cuse will go to 7-3. Florida State drops to 6-4. And in our battle of the AAC, I have Tulane beating UCF. my mom's alma mater. I love seeing the Tulane Green Wave do something special. And just, while I was saying this, couple bets. I'm on some Maction. Maction starts about a half hour. I'm on Western Michigan. Excuse me, I'm on Northern Illinois -1 or money line. Bowling Green money line in the upset. And just a couple bets I like. I like West Virginia +8 against Oklahoma. I might take West Virginia money line. I think Oklahoma stinks. I know I said I like Arkansas to win, but I have Arkansas +3. Corbin, I literally just over my college football playoff, but it's one Georgia, 2 Ohio State, 3 Tennessee, 4 Michigan. I have UVA +4.5 against Pitt as well. These aren't bets I'm taking. These are just what I like. Looking at some of the slate early on, 3:30. I like Oklahoma State +1.5. I know Spencer Sanders is hurt, but they're at home against Iowa State. Come on. And Iowa State always plays close games. I love Iowa money line at home against Wisconsin this week, and I do like Tulane -2 in that game against UCF. I also love Kansas +4 against Texas Tech. Jaden Daniels is back for the Jayhawks, and I think that they're gonna be really, really strong with him back. He was a Heisman hopeful before getting injured, and now Texas Tech, they're sort of in a free fall right now. I don't even know who their quarterback is. True freshman. UNC +3.5. I think that game against Wake Forest is going to be a shootout. The over/under I'm seeing is already at 77.5. That's going to be a fun game, although I remember taking the over in it last year and it not hitting, so I'm not touching that. Again, I think I like TCU +7 and Cuse +6.5. Heisman prediction, Corbin, that's a good question. My Heisman prediction is still CJ Stroud. I am still think Ohio State's going to go undefeated. Now, we're not going to mollywop Michigan. I don't think we're the number one team in the country. There are certain fans who just, in their mind, Ohio State, they could play poorly, but they're still the best team in the country, according to certain fans. But I still have Stroud win the Heisman. He's been great numbers this year. If we're undefeated and we beat Michigan, there was no one else to win over CJ Stroud. Look, I like Drake. There's guys in the conversation: Drake May, Caleb Williams. They don't have a case over CJ Stroud. I truly think it's a two-man race between Stroud and Blake Corum. Whoever wins that Ohio State Michigan game, that guy's going to be the Heisman. So yeah, that's about it. My mortal lock of the week. So since you asked, Corbin, I'm going with Kansas +4 as my mortal lock of the week. I don't feel the same way I did about Lions +2.5. So that's my mortal lock. And you know what? Let me look at the NFL lines to give you my NFL mortal lock of the week. My early NFL mortal lock of the week is, it was the Broncos +3.5, but that line shifted. I love Seahawks +3. Seahawks +3 is my NFL mortal lock. Well, did that guy give you Lions last week, Corbin? I don't think so. Anyways, that's my show. I'm really excited I went live on YouTube for the first time. For the few people who joined, thank you for joining. Thanks for adding some commentary, especially shout out Steve, shout out Corbin. Again, I want to thank everybody who supports the podcast thus far. Go follow the Bird's Eye View podcast on Instagram for all my latest episode releases. Go follow Jay Bird's Eye View on Twitter for my reactions to games and all the latest news. Thank you, everybody, and have a great rest of your day.